About an hour ago, my buddy Jared over Guns and Gadgets posted a YouTube video talking about the ATF coming to visit one of the hosts of one of our private gun making educational day events. That host particularly is in Massachusetts. Matt, who's on here with me now, he's going to be leading that event. He'll be teaching that event. It's being hosted by Patriot Firearms Training, Bill Dalpy, and it's going to be up in Massachusetts. Now, we ran an event very similar to this, and Matt was there helping us out at Cape Gunworks in Hyannis, Massachusetts, a handful of months ago. Matt and I were also at an event in Pennsylvania at the Eagle Gun Shows, the Eagle Shows Oaks, Pennsylvania Gun Show right before Christmas. The weekend before Christmas, we did one of these events. And tomorrow, I'm going to be here with members of the Aussie group, 3D printing support group, as well as members of Guns for Everyone National. Edgar Antion, the founder there, he's going to be with me at Triple J Armory just outside of Denver, and we'll be doing one of these events. So first of all, if you don't know what these events are, we started the Gunmakers Match just about a year ago is when we announced the Gunmakers Match was going to happen. Firearms Policy Coalition was one of the supporters. Of course, Guns for Everyone National put that on with the help of Aussie Arms. And Gun Policy, Firearms Policy Coalition, Gun Policy here on IG, they came to me afterwards and said, you know, we definitely want to support this. We love what you're doing, but we also want to have more education. We want to get more people involved in this. Are you guys planning on doing that? How could you do that? Yes, Firearms Policy Coalition. We will go out and we will start doing private gun making educational days in addition to the competitions. So we've done them in several states now. We've had several of them happen, and we are doing 2 tomorrow. Tomorrow's the first weekend. We're going to have 2 going on at once. Again, I'll be running the one just outside of Denver, Colorado, where unserialized guns were recently banned. And Matt will be doing the one up in Massachusetts, where the ATF did go and have a conversation with the facility that's hosting it, not the entity that's hosting with the facility. And I guess, you know, inquiring what was going to be happening and making sure it wasn't for retail sale or manufacturing or whatever else. And what happened during that visit was they asked specifically if I was going to be there. Now, I get this third hand, but I find it very curious. I said, okay, and do you have this agent's card by chance? Yes, you do. Good. I don't need that name and number. And within 5 minutes of finding out that they had asked if I was specifically going to be there, I had this agent on the phone. And I think he was a little shocked that I called him. But is this Mike so-and-so? Yeah. Oh, this is Rob Pincus. I understand you were curious about whether or not I was going to be in Massachusetts next weekend doing a gun building event. A little bit of silence. And then we had a conversation. And turns out he was very aware of the fact that we had done one in Hyannis. He says he knows my buddies that own the shop there. I guess he may be their local agent. And he was very curious about what's going on with these gun building events. And to hear him explain it, he just wanted to make sure that nothing illegal was being done. Well, good, because nothing illegal is being done, and that's fine. So I proceeded to ask some very direct questions. You know, well, are you worried about this? Are you worried about that? You know, what are you worried about? And it really came down to 2 things. One was that he wanted to make sure that no one there was making a gun for retail sale or for sale to anyone else. Okay, cool. I did explain to him that my understanding of private gun making is basically the same as a straw purchase, right? The rules are if I build a gun, right? So let's say, you know, I put this together, I get a MUP or I get a SIG fire control unit, and I stick it in there, and I say, okay, I've done this, but especially with the MUP, right? Because the fire control unit is serialized. If I take the JSD, essentially the homemade fire control unit, drop it into this frame, and then I say, okay, now I'm going to sell it to Matt. If that was my intention, that's the same as going into a gun shop, buying a gun for somebody that I know can't buy their own gun and isn't going to go in and fill out the 4473. So essentially it's like a straw purchase. That's what the ATF and everybody else says you cannot do. It's illegal. And whether that's right or not, another conversation. Today, can't do that. However, I'm under the impression that if I do build my own gun, polymer 80, 3D printed, a MUP in the frame, whatever, and then later in sometime in the future, if I decide I don't want to own that gun anymore, that's my property, I can transfer it, just like I can sell a used gun that I bought originally for myself. He didn't want to comment on that. He said, well, I'd have to ask for clarification on that. I would suggest you speak to counsel before doing that. Okay, doesn't matter, because everybody at our private gun making event is there to build guns for themselves, not for family members, not for retail sale. Cool. Then he was worried about the tool issue. Now, this is something that I've gotten differing reports from over the last 5 or 6 years since this was announced, this rule was announced, that you cannot loan someone a tool. So if I don't know, I got a tool around here somewhere. If I take this 47-cent maybe file, or he takes that $20 drill that Matt's got in his screen, if I give this to someone and they use it to complete their gun, if they take their polymer 80 kit and they use this, I give it to them, they use this for like 7 hours or whatever it would take them to file that down, I have now committed a felony and I'm a bad man. So, okay, but I could sell this. I could show up and be like, hey, I'll sell this to you for 47 cents. And now you own it and you can go ahead about whittling down your deal. And that could be selling a drill. That could be selling a Dremel. It could be selling a rotary tool, whatever, all that. So we clarified that. And then we also talked about the fact that, you know, at some point, this piece of plastic becomes a gun in the eyes of the ATF. And I said, Mr. ATF guy, listen, if I'm at the range, right, and we had already established that, you know, he's well aware of my work and that kind of stuff. Okay, cool. So if I'm at the range and a guy next to me on the line looks over and he's seen one of my videos or something like that, and he says, oh, hey, Rob Pincus, you know gun stuff. My gun's not reliable. My gun's not working. It's just some Glock that he bought over the counter or whatever, right? So his Glock he bought over the counter isn't working. I'm allowed to take it from him, strip it down. Oh, look, here's the problem. This is broken or this isn't quite right. Put a new part in, file something, polish something, smooth something, whatever. Put it back together, test it. Oh, it works. Cool. Hand it back to him. And it's like, oh, of course, that would be gunsmithing, says the ATF guy. Okay, cool. So also, since at some point this piece of plastic becomes what you consider a firearm, in other words, if we get rid of these little bits and we get rid of that bit and we drill through those little holes, and now it can accept the parts, you already consider this a firearm. That would be correct, right? Obviously, I didn't have the visual because of the phone call. Well, yes, that's correct. I said, so at that point, I or Matt or anybody else, once the 80%, the incomplete piece of plastic has been turned into something that would be considered a firearm by the ATF, we can help them get it running. We can help them tune it, whatever, fit the stuff, the fine fitting, the little tiny nuances, all that. Well, that would seem okay. Yeah, I got agreement on that. You know, so at the end of the day, I don't know what started all this. He was clearly aware that we were doing these things. He was clearly aware that I was involved. He didn't expect me to be calling him on the phone, apparently. But when we did get on the phone together, there wasn't any, you can't do it. There wasn't any, well, you shouldn't do it. There wasn't any of that. Certainly one of the theories is, why would they even show up unless they were trying to intimidate people and make people worry about exercising their rights freely and proudly? That's a very fair question, I think. But I wasn't.
They weren't trying to stop it. Like
right, they weren't trying to stop it. Yeah, I think that's important, right? So
we kind of need to clarify is they weren't trying to stop it.
Not at all. They were asking what was going on, and then when I wanted to know. Obviously, if my name's being dropped, I want to know firsthand what's going on. And again, I just, well, we were just curious because we know you were at the one in Hyannis. Like, I don't know if they wanted me to sign a book. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, there's, Jared's video, I watched it and I threw him a text message. It was accurate. Yep. What he said in the video was accurate. And they didn't want to stop it. The thing about it is I'm not a big fan of the ATF, but that's their job. There is an FFL on the property. So, and that's one of the things, I mean, you're an FFL holder. I mean, that's one of the things you sign up for when you become an FFL is you kind of waive the right to privacy. They can come on your property or do inspections whenever they feel like it. Don't get me, I'm not defending the FFL, the ATF or anything like that, but they were there just kind of trying to get an idea of what was going on. I'm bringing tools people can buy tomorrow. They're welcome to buy them. Everybody can always use a drill, man. If you don't have one, you can buy one and then take it home with you. I'm sure you can find some stuff to do, with it.
Find some stuff to do.
My concern, especially like after the one at the Oaks, we had 25 people or so come in and build. And my thing was assembly. I'm not worried about the actual manufacture of the firearm, the polymer 80 itself, because it's fairly simple. I mean, we've seen tons of people do it. Polymer 80 did a pretty good job, like as far as instructions go and like their whole design, it's pretty simple to do. So my concern when that kind of got brought up was, all right, cool. Well, what about assembly? Because
right. Like, getting all the bits in there if you haven't done it before.
Can I let you borrow my punches?
Right.
Can I let you borrow my punches? Can you use my hammer? You know what I mean? Like, okay, you know what I mean? And all that stuff's fine because that's not manufacturing in any way, shape, or form.
You know, and it's really important that when we have the opportunity to have these conversations, and I think, you know, the guy obviously was surprised that I called him, but at the end of the day, what am I going to do? Like, pretend it didn't happen and you know, wait and see. Now, I will say, no one has, as to my knowledge, no one has contacted the owners or the operators at the Colorado location where we're doing one tomorrow. So again, how this all came up, why the ATF local agent decided to go there, I don't really know what his motivation was, but I know that I wanted to tell everybody it's having something approaching zero effect. I'm aware of no one who was canceled. We're still going forward with the event. We're still going to be doing all the things we were going to do. We're just going to be like 100% clear, right? Like if somebody wants to buy a tool, cool, we're going to do a written receipt or whatever, Venmo, like there's going to be a record, and that's it.
It's an adapt and overcome situation. You know,
yeah.
I think calling was a smart move because, I mean, I know you've said it and I've said it, we're not doing anything wrong. So you calling rather than being like, oh, they said my name, I'm kind of concerned about that, and not doing it and not looking into it seems nefarious. You know, building guns is awesome. Like, we all know that. Like, building guns is awesome. Building your own guns is awesome.
Yeah, because while we're doing it, people come in. Remember, I posted that one video of like the cop who was working the door at the Oaks. He walked in, he's like, "What's going on here?" And I'm like, "We're making guns. Want to make one?" And he kind of laughed, like he knew, and he knew he was on camera because I was in the middle of a video of something else when he happened to walk in. So he kind of like shied away, but then he was back in like 4 times that day, just curious about it. And so many people are curious about what we're doing, and that's the same thing's going to happen. You know, we're kind of in a public area, right? People can see what we're doing. Originally, like everybody involved that wanted to try to do it, and I was excited about it because what it was going to do was raise the awareness. It was going to raise the excitement about it. It was going to hopefully raise the interest and get people curious about it. I mean, I don't know how many people I have had like humblingly reach out to me and go, "Hey, I got a 3D printer because I saw you were doing it," or "I was thinking about getting one and now I got a 3D printer," and "Hey, I just got this 3D printer," or "Hey, look at this thing I just printed." And you know, of course, most of them within like 5 days are doing nicer prints than I do, but that's okay. You know, I'm gonna keep fighting through. It's fun. I enjoy it, and it's been great. So we want these things. The fact that the ATF noticed, okay, you know, we didn't want them to not notice. In fact, again, it comes down to normalization. It comes down to common use. It comes down to a common practice, right? If this ends up in front of the Supreme Court and the only people that the Supreme Court sees on the internet doing it are guys in balaclavas, and some of you guys, I know you have your reasons, love you to death, but if you're the only ones, if it's all guys hiding their identity, if it's everybody acting like the only reason to build a gun yourself is so that the government doesn't have a record of it, that's going to hurt us at the end of the day. So I want more people doing it out loud and proud.
You know, I'm trying to, you know, I try to look at everything with a silver lining, and, you know, it's almost a positive that the ATF found out about it and started looking into it because, you know, it's all about having the conversation, right? So you look at it like, okay, cool. Well, like, you know, when they were describing it to us and Jared had shared it in his video, and that's what they had emailed both of us. Like when I called my guy at the ATF, like, you know, like they all go off of that 2015, you know, thing. But it's like, all right, cool. Well, if we're having the conversation, you know, because we can all admit a CNC machine set up to run an 80 and you just push start is not the same as running a hand drill and a Dremel, you know?
Yeah, so obviously, I don't think any kind of regulation, registration, I don't think any of it should exist. But there is a clear difference, right? If we're going to start talking about, you know, gradients, and that's how this works, folks. If you want to look at the template and you want to look at the evidence for how we get our rights back, all you got to do is look at concealed carry, right? Remember that like 40 years ago, there were 13, 14 states where you could not get a permit. There was no legal way for you to carry a concealed firearm for defense. And now look at it. Now we got 22 states where you have permitless carry. If you can legally own a gun, you can legally carry it for defense. Like the change is a massive, but it started with going to may issue in some cases. It started going to shall issue in many, many, many cases. Now we're going to constitutional carry, and we have regained lost rights in that way. And that's how we're going to do it, I think, on every front, right? Until we've done it so many times in so many different little areas and niche areas of gun rights that then, okay, we're going to go back to, hey, yeah, we get it, shall not be infringed.
But, you know, I mean, I should be able to own an SBR, you know? I mean, you can own an SBR 45 minutes down the road, but I can't own one because of where I live. You know, I don't agree with that at all. We can't own suppressors here. You know, I don't agree with that.
I think here's the trick. if you want to get into this, you're going to need the tools anyway, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't have a hand drill, and I don't know, who's showing up to these things that doesn't, now I shouldn't say that, because honestly, we had a 13-year-old girl, 14-year-old girl, build her own gun. Her very first gun was a gun that she built herself. And then we went right to the range, and the very first handgun she shot, maybe the first gun she shot ever, was a gun she built, which I think is incredibly cool. That happened at the last Colorado event we had. So guess what? I'll bet the 14-year-old girl doesn't have a drill, right? Yeah. So if she wants to get into gun building, she's going to need to buy a drill, right? So at the end of the day, like, point is, if you have a drill, bring them to the events. If you have a Dremel, bring it to the events. Whatever you want to do.
I enjoy teaching, so and I love new gun builders, and we're gonna have a room full of people building guns for the first time. So I'm really looking forward to that. What's going to be interesting to me is the sharesies thing. It's like, oh, hey, just use mine. It's like, well, hey, you can't really do that.
My plan is to simply say, hey guys, here's the deal. You know as well as I do, I think you've been on the range with me in Massachusetts, right? I'm not there to enforce Massachusetts capacity bans or gun laws, or is it on the list? I don't care what you do, but you got to know somebody's taking pictures. I'm going to be running video. The guy next to you might be an undercover statey. I don't know, but I'm not there. I'm not looking at magazines. When I'm in California, I don't care. Maybe you're an FFL. Maybe that's a pre-ban. I don't know, and I don't care. So tomorrow, I'm not going to be like diving across the folding table to keep somebody from handing somebody a drill bit, right? Like, as far as I know, he must have dropped it and the dude picked it up for him and handed it back to him. Not my deal, right? I'm going to say what I need to say, and the end of that, and I'm not going to be loaning any of my tools out, the tools for creation. Yeah. I will definitely be bringing a couple sets of punches, the tools for assembly, for the gunsmithing that happens after the creation, the manufacture, the making has been done. I'll be doing that. But again, it's not going to be crazy. It's kind of like SHOT Show, right? Everybody's like, oh, we're going to have to wear the mask, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, I put my mask on maybe 6 minutes. I think, like whatever. Jared and I talked about this on one of my podcast episodes. If you are not listening to the podcast, Rob Pincus podcast, you got to go check that out. RobPincusPodcast.com. Subscribe, share, like. We talked about it. Like, most people that didn't want to wear masks weren't wearing masks. We put a mask on to walk in, take the mask off, we do our business. And it wasn't a big deal. And I think people get so wound up about, is it going to be a big deal, that's why I wanted to do this, right? I wanted to do this live tonight to tell people, look, okay, yeah, Jared's right, that happened, but we're still moving forward. It's really not, I don't think it's going to look or feel after the initial, hey guys, make sure you remember these two things. So again, we're not defending the ATF here. We're just saying it looks like it was an inquiry that at best, or I guess at worst, best from a gun control side, was supposed to intimidate some people not to come. Don't fall for it. Like, show up, be proud, make your gun, follow the rules, do the thing. We're celebrating the freedom hobby of private gun making. But anyway, listen, dude, I appreciate you jumping on. I just wanted to let everybody know that, yes, that happened, but yes, also we're still doing it. So, if the idea was to intimidate us out of doing it or whatever, like, that didn't happen. And just to be clear, okay, there was no, you can't do it, right? It was, be careful. Okay.
You know what? I'd love for him to come out, man. You know what I mean?
I said that. I told him. I said, you should go up there. I said, I'm not going to be there. I said, but the next time I'm at the Cape and we're doing one, Cape Gunworks, come on out, man. Like, just like I told that cop that walked around the corner, like, why would I not want you there? I mean, at the end of the day, you're either going to throw cuffs on me for doing something that I think I should be able to do anyway, and I thought I was doing within the boundaries, and we're going to find out real fast, or you're going to be there, you're going to participate, and then from that point forward, how many other people, think about this, how many people who saw Jared's video might have said, oh man, I'm not going to one of these things then if it's going to be like that. Like, I hope they see this video and now they think, oh, okay, it wasn't that big a deal, right? And okay, so I'm going to go do it,